Welcome, everyone, to The Explainer. It's pretty wild how seemingly untouchable empires can just collapse almost overnight. Today, we're unpacking one of the absolutely most fascinating case studies of institutional corruption in modern sports history, the 2006 Calciopoli scandal in Italy. We aren't just going to look at what happened, but more importantly, we're going to explore exactly why this deeply entrenched system imploded precisely when it did. It really is a gripping investigative mystery. I mean, how did Juventus, the most successful, most powerful club in Italy, known affectionately as the Old Lady, accidentally orchestrate its own spectacular demise? It's this incredible story of power vacuums, secret wiretaps, and a perfectly timed storm that brought absolute giants to their knees. Section 1. The Accidental Discovery. Okay, let's dive right into this because the timing here is a story of extreme juxtaposition. Think back to the summer of 2006. The Italian national football team was conquering the globe, eventually lifting the World Cup in July. Yet at the exact same moment they were celebrating on the world stage, their domestic league was literally burning to the ground. Now here is the craziest part of this entire chain of events. This massive match-fixing scandal, it was actually never the original target. Prosecutors in Turin had initiated these secret phone wiretaps because they were investigating doping allegations at Juventus. But as they sat there listening to thousands of hours of audio, they accidentally stumbled upon something far more systemic, a massive, sprawling shadow network designed to influence referee appointments across all of Italian football. To really understand what they found, it helps to look at it academically for a second. The Italian Society of Public Economics, or CIEP, actually conducted an extensive analysis of referee bias using the Calciopoli data. They essentially treated this whole scandal as an unprecedented real-world case study to measure exactly how impartiality breaks down on the football pitch. Now, what's really interesting about this is the distinction they make. In sports, we all know about unconscious referee bias. That's your standard home field advantage, where a referee might be subtly swayed by a roaring crowd of 80,000 fans. Totally natural. But what Calciopoli revealed was conscious referee bias. This wasn't environmental pressure. This was voluntary, deliberate manipulation orchestrated from the top down by club executives long before the match even started. Section 2. The shadow ecosystem. To understand how this conscious bias actually functioned in practice, we really need to look beneath the surface of the Italian football iceberg. Just listen to this actual wiretapped quote from Juventus general manager Luciano Moggi to Pierluigi Piretto, who was the head of the Italian Referees Association. Gigi, what kind of referee did you send us? It gives you a visceral sense of the mob-like reality operating behind the scenes. Moggi wasn't just hoping for a good referee, he was demanding one. He was treating officials as compliant clients in this sort of unofficial rigged championship. And the mechanics of Moggi's shadow ecosystem were just staggering. He literally distributed foreign Swiss SIM cards to referees to evade police detection. And in one truly wild wiretap, they discussed locking a referee inside a dressing room after a Juventus lost to Regina. I mean, no way, right? But it happened. He wasn't just influencing matches. He was directly dictating which referees got the big, high-paying games. On top of that, Moggi pressured prominent TV journalists, offering them exclusive access to the club, but only in exchange for favorable coverage that actively ignored controversial calls. Section 3. Pyramids of Power. Because, look, to think this was just about one man, or even just one club, is really missing the forest for the trees here. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer scale we are talking about. Imagine if the head of your favorite sports league also owned the main broadcasting network. Well, that was Italy in 2006. Adriano Galliani was the vice president of AC Milan while simultaneously serving as the president of the Football League itself. Franco Carraro, the head of the Italian Football Federation, was tied to a major bank underwriting debt for clubs and actually suppressed the initial reports of the scandal. Then you have Marco Tronchetti-Provera, a major Inter Milan shareholder who also happened to own Telecom Italia, the very company sponsoring the league. So we kind of have to stop thinking of these as just football teams. Academics describe them as isolated pyramids of power. They were fluid networks of reciprocal exchange. Each major club was essentially competing to coerce clients like referees, journalists, and smaller clubs into their specific network of favors. The football pitch, it was just one small grassy stage where a massive corporate and political proxy war was being fought. Section 4. Why the system collapsed. This brings us right to the core mystery of our explainer. If this neo-patrimonial system was so deeply entrenched at the absolute top of Italian society, why did it finally implode specifically in the year 2006? Well, the answer is a perfect storm of converging factors.
First, the sheer accident of a separate doping investigation capturing the wiretops. Second, a massive shift in corporate power due to the unexpected deaths of the Agnelli brothers. And third, the frankly unbelievable fact that a rival power pyramid literally controlled the telecommunications infrastructure executing those wiretaps. So the crucial point is summed up perfectly by Moggi himself. The death of l'Avocado Agnelli made us orphans and weak. It was easy to attack Juve and destroy them. For decades, Juventus had been heavily shielded by the immense political and corporate power of Gianni and Umberto Agnelli, the heads of the Fiat empire. When they both passed away shortly before the scandal, a massive political vacuum opened up. Juventus was suddenly left without the institutional shield required to survive a leak of this magnitude. Actually, scratch that. Without that shield, they were sitting ducks.
And at the exact moment Juventus was left vulnerable, a startling coincidence occurred. Neutrally speaking, critics often point out that the wiretaps that brought down Juventus were authorized and executed by Telecom Italia. And who controlled Telecom Italia? Executives who concurrently sat on the board of rival club Inter Milan. So Juventus's political shield completely disappeared just as a rival pyramid held the keys to the surveillance.
Section 5. The unbalanced aftermath. Because once those wiretaps leaked to the press, the fallout was incredibly rapid, and it resulted in some highly asymmetric punishments. The speed of the fallout was just breathtaking. In May 2006, the transcripts hit the newspapers. By the summer, the heads of the Italian Football Federation were forced to resign en masse. To manage this crisis, a newly appointed emergency commissioner was brought in, a guy named Guido Rossi, who, incidentally, was a former Inter Milan board member. And by late July, literally just days after Italy won the World Cup, Rossi's administration stripped Juventus of 2 league titles and exiled them down to Serie B. Other clubs like AC Milan, Fiorentina, and Lazio were handed point deductions, sure, but they survived in the top flight. With Juventus exiled to the second division and financially devastated, a massive power vacuum opened up on the pitch. The competitive landscape of Italian football was entirely rewritten almost overnight. As you can see by what happened next, the next 5 Serie A championships were immediately swallowed up by those rival pyramids. Inter Milan won 4 consecutive titles, and AC Milan took 1. Which leaves us with a final provocative thought to wrap up our explainer today. Did Calciopoli truly clean up the structural corruption of Italian football? Or, in a society so heavily built on these deeply entrenched networks, did it simply eliminate one vulnerable club to shift absolute power to a completely different pyramid? It is a fascinating question, and one that continues to fiercely divide fans and historians to this very day. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer to explore the incredible mechanics behind the collapse of Calciopoli.